Hello everyone, my name is Martin Turbin. I am a postdoctoral researcher at the Astronomical Observatory of the University of Geneva. And today I have this difficult task of sharing some discussion with you about how the field of exoplanet GCM modeling, and especially of terrestrial exoplanet GCM modeling, may look like in the next decades. Because we feel that this task is quite ambitious for only one person, we decided with my colleagues from the Thai Workshop Science Organization Committee that we will ask your opinions on that specific question. So for that, we sent you a survey about a month ago now to ask you a list of questions in order to help us to better understand how the future of our field may look like in the next decades. So in this presentation, I'm going to present the main results of this survey. Also, I would like to apologize because I won't have enough time in this presentation format to provide all the results from this survey. So what I will do is that I will make available as soon as possible all the data that I and we collected with this online survey. So in total, we have about 35 participants that completed the survey on the future of exoplanet GCM modeling. Most of the people that answered the survey are either mid-career or early career scientists, and actually there were only a very few senior scientists that replied to this questionnaire. I suspect that this is a combination of first the senior scientists being quite busy, but also the fact that the field of GCM modeling, and especially of terrestrial planets, is actually, I believe, quite young compared to other fields of astrophysics and climate sciences. Also, and as summarized on this slide, most scientists that filled this questionnaire are working either in North America or Europe. So in this online survey, we ask you several questions. The first one being, based on the fact that the computing resources are increasing over time and the fact that we need to go to more and more physically based parametrization, that the future of global climate modeling is high resolution simulations. Your answers to this question are summarized in this plot that shows the number of respondents in the y-axis and the answer on the x-axis, going from 1 to 5, from I strongly disagree to I strongly agree. We can now compare these results to the next part of the same question, which is, do you think that the future of global climate modeling is rather a combination of a hierarchy of models that would range from global climate models run at a low resolution with a very high resolution zoomed models, such as cloud resolving models, and that can be used to feed the parametrization of these global climate models? Again, your answers to these questions are summarized on these plots and compared to your answers to the high resolution simulation possibility. You can easily observe on this plot that most of you believe that the future of the field relies much more on the use of a hierarchy of models of various resolution than using only global climate model pushed at increasingly high resolution. So I'm now moving to the second big question we ask you in this online survey. As you know, one of the big goals of our field is to build global climate models that are able to simulate a wide range of processes ranging from radiative transfer, convection, chemistry, clouds, upper atmospheric processes, continents, oceans, etc., etc., etc. Of course, and as you know, all the existing GCMs in the field cannot so far simulate all of the processes needed to shape a planetary atmosphere together at the same time and in a satisfying manner. So we ask you the following question. In your opinion, which of the important processes that shape planetary atmospheres, such as clouds, convection, chemistry, hydrology, etc., should we prioritize in the development of, I would say, common GCMs? So your answers to this question are summarized on this plot that shows for each of the important processes of GCMs, how many people for a given process ranked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 10, this process. Okay, so 1 being, yes, this is the most important thing to do for GCMs, and 10 being, okay, maybe it's the last thing to do, it's not so important. There are, I believe, 2 important things to take away from these results. The first one being, okay, among all the processes I've mentioned on the slides, there are always a few scientists at least that are interested in developing, in pushing the development of at least each of these processes. I believe this is a very interesting news because that means there will be several scientists that works at least in each of these processes to derive and to propose better representation and parametrization of these processes that can benefit to everyone in the field and push the field together forward. Also, and this is the second thing I wanted to mention, it seems that there are two processes, which are convection first and then clouds and ASIS microphysics, that attracted more attention than other processes. In my opinion, I think it makes a lot of sense, not only because convection and clouds are known now to be the main source of uncertainties between the different global climate models, and this is something that will be discussed for this TIE intercomparison project, but also because clouds are most likely the main physical phenomenon that will limit us to compare at some point the observation that we will have from terrestrial exoplanets and exoplanets in general with our global climate models. I also believe that the results of this second question are perfectly in line with the first question in the sense that if we want at some point to be able to model convection in clouds, I would say in a self-consistent way, we need to go to very high resolution to be able to solve and to simulate explicitly the convection and the formation of clouds. So to push a bit more on this specific aspect, we ask you the following question. According to you, which development should be prioritized to connect GCM models to ongoing and future observations of exoplanets? Again, the most widespread answer to this question was that clouds and ASIS and everything that relates to microphysics and cloud formation, such as convection, is a key aspect to prioritize to connect GCM model with future observations. Okay, so I'm now moving to the third big question of the survey. Again, as I said earlier, one of the big goals of our field is to have a fully coupled GCM, including as much as possible processes to simulate planets, planetary atmosphere in the most realistic way. One of the issues with this goal is that these coupled GCM simulations, possibly at increasingly high resolution, are going to be computationally very expensive. And so we asked you, what strategies, in your opinion, should be prioritized to overcome this issue? So the first proposition was making algorithm and GCM more computationally efficient. This could, for example, be done by optimizing the codes of the most, I would say, computationally expensive processes in the GCMs, such as, for instance, radiative transfer. The second proposition was that maybe we could find and develop new strategies to reduce the convergence timescale of this simulation using, for example, a suite of converging simulations or using elaborated techniques such as asynchronous coupling to accelerate the convergence of fully coupled GCM simulations, simulating processes that can occur at very different timescales. The third proposition that we made to answer this specific question was that maybe as time goes on and as the computing resources get increasingly higher following possibly Moore's law, then this particular issue of computing resources for fully coupled GCMs may be naturally solved. Your answers to these three different possibilities to this specific question of what strategy should we prioritize to solve the computing resource problem of fully coupled GCM are summarized here on this plot. I think based on these results that this is striking to see that most of you believe that we cannot rely on the increasingly high amount of computing resources available to us to solve this specific problem. And most of you believe instead that we will have to develop either a more computationally efficient algorithm or either new strategies to overcome this specific problem. And I believe this is something that deserves to be discussed extensively in this conference at some point. As computationally expensive, demanding GCM simulation seems to be a natural evolution of our field, I personally wanted to ask you the following question. Are you concerned about the increasing energy cost and thus the environmental footprint of our GCM simulations? And so this is the result of the survey. I must say that I'm actually quite surprised, but also worried because I expected your answer would be more on the right part of this diagram. I analyzed a bit more in details your answer to better understand why you don't feel in general concerned by this specific aspect of our research. The first argument that was raised is that as we go toward more and more energy efficient GCM simulations, then this will naturally reduce the carbon footprint of our simulations. I believe instead that we will have a rebound effect where all the energy that will be gained from having more efficient GCM will be reused somehow in more sophisticated or more higher resolution simulations of GCM. The second argument that was raised is that this fight against decreasing our carbon footprint in the GCM simulation in this particular case is not something that should be done by scientists themselves. The third argument that was raised is that numerical simulation is not the primary source of CO2 emissions for researchers such as GCM scientists compared, for example, to flights toward conferences. I want to answer to this last argument that to fight against global warming, we need to reduce our CO2 emissions as scientists for all dominant sources of emission, not only the primary one, the flight conferences. I also want to add that in some countries, and this is illustrated by this scientific paper I invite you to have a look at, that in the countries such as Australia or the US, where the electricity network is highly carbonated, associated with a lot of CO2 emission, then the numerical simulations by astrophysicists or climate scientists, as we are, can actually become the dominant source of emission over the one of conference airplanes. I personally believe that we should discuss at some point, possibly in this conference, strategies and possibilities to reduce the carbon footprint that is related to our scientific activities, such as numerical climate modeling. I also would like to advocate for more transparency in our scientific work. For instance, as a matter of fact, I suggest that we could add in the acknowledgement section of our paper the number of kilograms of CO2 and number of hours that have been used on supercomputer to get the results of this project. Okay, so I'm now moving to the last and a bit more futuristic question of the survey. Do you think that artificial intelligence techniques could significantly help atmospheric modeling? As you can observe in this plot, there is no clear trend of your answer to this question. I believe this is partly due at least to the fact that most people of the field don't have any clear view of how artificial intelligence techniques could help atmospheric modeling. Some of you provided a bit more answer on how this could be made possible. Your most widespread answer that I have copy-pasted on the right side of the slides are actually related to how we could use machine learning technique to derive subgrid scale parametrizations for GCMs. For instance, and this is related to the first question I've proposed in this survey, we could use machine learning techniques based on cloud resolving models to derive, in the end, subgrid scale parametrization for clouds and convection in particular for GCM simulations. As a side note, this is actually something as illustrated by this scientific paper that is already being explored in the Earth part of the climate modeling science. I'm now reaching the conclusion of my presentation. Based on the results of this survey, as well as my personal opinion, I believe that in the coming years and decades, we will see more and more sophisticated, fully coupled global climate models. I also believe that a lot of effort will be put to bring new ideas on methods and strategies to make these computationally very expensive simulations of fully coupled GCM actually doable. I also think a lot of emphasis will be put to find better representation of the effect of convection and clouds, mostly because we know now that this is among the most limiting processes in our present and future interpretation of the observation we'll have of exoplanets, and specifically the small terrestrial ones. For this, I believe a lot on the hierarchy of models that will use cloud resolving model to simulate explicitly clouds and convection that then afterwards derive some nice, robust and flexible parametrization for exoplanet GCMs with a lower resolution. This aspect could be tackled with the help of machine learning techniques, which have made a lot of progress the last few years. With that, I would like to thank you for your attention, and I'm looking forward discussing all of this with you in more details during the discussion sessions. Thank you.